What's up? What's up? What's up? Cayman Wolf the Decrepit Gamer here. If you make VR content or any kind of content that's high action, requires a lot of movement, you probably need a nice big green screen. You want a green screen that's wide, that covers more area than just the frame that you start your video on. Well, today we're going to take a look at the one that I just purchased myself, the HYJ-INC 10-foot by 12-foot green screen. So for those of you that follow my channel, you're probably familiar with my struggles with the green screen. I create VR content in shooting games and sword games and games that require me to move around a lot. And so I avoided using a green screen for a long time. Initially, I was using NVIDIA Broadcast, but the workflow was just too cumbersome, man. I had to have a camera that was running the DroidCam software that fed into NVIDIA Broadcast, and then that fed OBS, and I had a separate stream for my VR headset, and it was just so many things that had to be set up on the front end, and if any one of them was incorrect, then all of that footage would be wasted, and so that was not a good solution, and I didn't do that for very long. Then I made the plunge and purchased DaVinci Resolve Studio and started using Magic Mask, and that works okay, but very often the masking isn't accurate and parts of me become transparent and disappear. And then worst of all, the masking took so long. It added literally hours to the workflow of any given video. And so I did it. I finally broke down and bought myself a green screen. And the one I bought was the HYJ-INC 10-foot by 12-foot green screen. And it's working very well for me, and it may work for you. So let's take a look at it. There's timestamps in the description, so you can skip ahead to any part of the video that you want to see, but let's start with an unboxing. All right. So here is the HYJ 10-foot by 12-foot green screen, just exactly as it arrived to me from Amazon. I'm going to try to be very, very careful with this box cutter here because I don't want to inadvertently cut the green screen material. So it looks like we got the screen itself here. Oh, and it's packaged in a resealable plastic package here. Here we have a user manual with some installation instructions, product specifications, and a list of materials are included in the packaging. Okay, this is a 10-foot by 12-foot green screen, but the frame is a 8.5 feet height and a 10-foot width. So the green screen will extend beyond where it touches the ground, so it covers a portion of the ground so that you can shoot a portion of the ground as well. It comes with a carry bag as well as the frame. So the frame is inside the carry bag. It comes with 4 clamps. And let's take the frame out of the bag. It's Velcro sealed. This is a nice thick canvas bag. This is not cheap material. And this looks like the crossbar. As to my opinion so far, everything feels very sturdy. Nothing feels cheap here. These frames are all metal. It feels like even these wing nuts here are metal. None of this is cheap material. Now, I'm no expert on green screens or the material that they're made of, so I'm not going to try to opine on that at this point. Just eyeballing it, it looks very evenly colored. I mean, I assume that that's something that you're looking for. I'm pleased with the way it was packaged, and I'm pleased with all of the materials so far. Now, one thing I can say right off the bat is that the instructions are not very clear. There's like 6 steps, and they're basically just pictures. There's nothing in here that explains anything, so hopefully this is going to be just a very straightforward, intuitive process. Let's see. This picture is showing these legs being extended somehow. Okay, I see. We just loosen this wing nut right here, push this down, and that should extend these legs. Very good, okay. And we'll tighten that back up. It looks like the next step is showing to extend these telescoping rods inside this frame. I'm going to come back to those because this cross beam has to be placed between those, and if I extend those up over my head, I have a feeling that's going to be more difficult to do. Okay, this attaches with a pin here, like this. You can see that. Push that pin in, that pin pop into place. Okay, and that is quite long. Yeah, that looks like 10 feet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this wing nut right here, place one side of this rod on here, and replace the wing nut. And that takes care of that side, and do the other side. I'm not going to put this wing nut back on here yet because I just want this thing to hold this in place while I slide that green screen onto here. Where the screen was folded, it looks like it's got quite a few creases and wrinkles in it, so it will probably need to be steamed and ironed. Here's the fold through which the fold and the stitching through which the rods are intended to be inserted. There's quite a bit of cloth to work with. This really should be a two-man job. I don't believe I'm going to be able to get my son off of his VR game, so we'll wrestle with it ourselves here. Okay, so now I'm going to insert this rod through this stitching here. Let me put that back on that screw where I can put the wing nut back in place. Now I think it's just a matter of spreading this out evenly. I believe the idea here is that we want to clamp these on here and stretch that cloth as tightly as we can. I'm going to put this right where that rod goes into the other rod, but the instructions don't say anything about this. The instructions say virtually nothing. Now I think the thing to do is to just lift it up into place. I'm going to extend one rod on one side, and then I'm going to extend the other rod on the other. Oh, this really is a two-man job. Oh, I see what I did here. Yeah, these tripod legs can be locked down to a position where they are much wider. Okay, that was the problem. That's why that fell over. That's why it felt a little unstable like that. Yeah, okay, now those legs are locked down to where they're a bit wider, so now it should be more stable. Okay, now let's do the next telescoping rod. Now let's get this side. Okay guys, that is it. That is an assembled HYJ 10-foot by 12-foot green screen. I'm a little loath to have to fight with those creases and wrinkles, and I'm also dreading having to try to fight with getting this thing evenly lit in this room. I may end up having to buy some lighting, but I'm going to reserve judgment until I try shooting with this thing. Okay, so what I've done here is this thing came with 4 of these clamps, and I had them across the top here. And so what I've done is I've taken 2 of them and put them on the sides on the bottom down here and used the 4 points of contact to try to stretch this thing taut, which to me seemed to make sense. I'm not sure because the user manual says almost nothing about how to configure these clamps, and it really has almost no information at all, which the whole thing, the setup on the whole thing was fairly intuitive, but I'm not a videographer. You know, I've never used a green screen before. I feel like a little bit of additional information in that user manual to laymen and novices like myself that have never really worked with this kind of equipment would have been very helpful to explain things like where and how it should be clamped and tips on how to properly and effectively set it up and use it. At any rate, the clamps in these 4 positions right here intuitively made more sense, and so I've moved those clamps down there and let it sit overnight, and it seems like that has allowed some of the wrinkles and creases to work their way out of this thing. I don't know how badly these are going to affect this thing in terms of the green screen functionality, so we're going to give that a try here. The other thing that I really think I'm going to struggle with is the fact that this is not evenly lit in this room. You can see how it's lit a lot more brightly on one side than on the other, and from everything that I've read, that is just not going to work. And so what I've done is I've ordered some lights, some LED photo videography lights that I'm going to use to try to evenly light this thing, but we'll see. I mean, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom into it here and we'll just see how it works. Okay, hello from future Cayman Wolf. So what we're going to do here is we're going to test the HYJ green screen in my video editing software. I'm using DaVinci Resolve Studio version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the next 3 clips from this video into another timeline. Now we're zoomed in on our green screen. Now in DaVinci Resolve Studio, there's a number of ways that you can do green screen, and I believe probably the simplest way to do it is to use the Resolve FX. We have this 3D keyer right here. I'm going to drag it onto the first of the 3 clips that I just brought in. I'm going to set my playhead to be on that clip so we see the output of that clip. I'm going to use this little pin here to indicate all of the colors that I want to replace with an alpha output. And okay. And yeah, just as I thought, there are a lot of color variances in that unevenly lit green screen, but man, it looks like DaVinci Resolve is not having much of a problem with this at all. Okay, there we go. I've eliminated the green screen. Now I would say that using an unevenly lit green screen like that, I do not want to wear anything that resembles any sort of green, because I've just had to choose such a large spectrum of shades of green in order to get rid of all of that. But I'm not wearing any in this clip, and it seems to have done a pretty good job with it. Now you can see there's still some green around my edges right here, so I'm going to use the despill control here, and I'm probably going to turn that all the way up because there's a lot of spillage there, and still a little bit of green. So I'm going to use my matte finesse controls here. I'm going to turn up black clip just a little bit and maybe blur it just a little bit. And I think that's actually a pretty good job right there, considering that how unevenly that green screen was lit, and it had the wrinkles in it and all that, the creases in it and all that. So now I'm going to copy that clip, select the other 2 clips, paste attributes. I'm going to paste that plugin, the settings of that plugin, onto my other 2 clips. Yep. Okay, and I'm going to take those 3 video clips, move them higher in the timeline. Now I'm going to use a background that I use in a lot of my videos. This comes from Zero Caliber 2. This is the lobby that I use. Stretch this out to be the same length, and I think that looks pretty good, man. I think that looks really good. That green screen seems as if it's going to work very well for me. Now, granted, this is probably speaking more to the quality of DaVinci Resolve than it is to that particular green screen. But honestly, I may have wasted my money on the lighting that I've ordered, because it seems as if DaVinci Resolve is going to have no problems with this green screen whatsoever. So I'm going to take these 3 clips that I just edited, select the original versions of these clips and remove them, paste the edited versions in, and let's carry on with the video. And I have a feeling that the unevenness of the light is going to be a problem. And if it is, then you should probably be seeing that right now. But we'll see. I can tell you that overall, I was impressed by the quality of the construction of the materials. I can't speak to the quality of the green screen itself, other than to tell you from a layman's perspective, it's got a little bit of a thickness about it, like maybe a high thread count sheet. If I take a small but relatively bright LED flashlight and hold it back here behind this thing, you can see that the light comes through there pretty well. I would assume that's indicative of a entry-level green screen or something that's less expensive. I don't know, but I want to show you guys that in case anybody that is familiar with this technology and what constitutes a good green screen. I just want to show you that too. This is me holding the flashlight about a foot behind the screen, and that's what we're getting. So I don't think I'm going to have an issue with that because I'm not setting this thing in front of any sort of light source. I wouldn't, because of that, I wouldn't dare sit it in front of these windows over here that have the shades with less than 100% opacity. So that's the green screen itself. I can tell you that the rest of the materials, the frame and the clamps, now they do feel like very high quality materials. Everything's metal and everything is telescoping and locked in place with pins and wing nuts and screws, and it's all metal. There's no, that I see anywhere, there's no plastic. Well, the clamps are plastic, but they're still very thick, high tension springs in those clamps that are clamping that green screen nice and hard, allowing you to put a lot of pressure on it to pull it taut. So overall, I would say the quality of the framing is good, the clamps are good. I can't speak much to the quality of the green screen itself. I don't really know enough to attempt to do that, other than what I described earlier about it being a high thread count, but it's not very resistant to light. That's all I can really say. Well, that's it, guys. This green screen seems like it's going to work really well for me, and I'm really glad that I bought it. But do I recommend it? Honestly, I can't just wholesale recommend this green screen. I can recommend it with quite a few caveats. And those caveats are, the green screen itself is a cloth material and it feels very similar to a sheet. So long as you know that going in, well, that might be okay. You'll want to use it in a location where there's no direct light source behind it, like a lamp or a window or something like that, because that light will shine through. When it arrives, it's going to have quite a few creases and some wrinkles in it. The little excuse of a user manual they have in there is virtually non-existent. You just have to muddle through it and do it yourself. Luckily, it's fairly intuitive, and if you watch this review, you can probably just follow right along with me. But if those things aren't an issue for you, then I can tell you on the plus side, it's very big. It should be plenty big enough for you to move around in front of it and not have to worry about going off camera. It's not very expensive. It's quite affordable. The frame itself is very durable. It's made out of good high quality materials. If you use DaVinci Resolve, or if you have confidence in your video editing software to mask out all of the shades of green that are going to occur and the variations of lighting across that huge 10-foot by 8-foot area, then it's likely to work very well for you. It certainly is for me. And again, I have to say, I'm very glad that I bought it. With those caveats, you may be too. Well guys, I hope this video has been informative and helpful. If you've gotten anything out of this, please remember to do these things here. For more product reviews, game reviews, tips, tricks, hints, and awesome gameplay videos, subscribe to the Decrepit Gamer channel. This is Cayman Wolf, the Decrepit Gamer, reminding you that you're never too old to game, and my friends, I am out.
I'm the Decrepit Gamer, don't you give me no lag. Got my console, got my stacks, and I'm ready to frag. Who says YouTube, oh, the be a digital knight? I'll be rated